In this video, I'm gonna share some tips and tricks on how to make the most out of the Sony A6600 and stick to the very end where I'm gonna show you how to power this camera all day long on one battery.
You gotta just press record.
Hey, my name is Nolan Molt with Think Media, and on this channel, we give you the best tips and tools for building your influence with online video. Let's get right into it. A lot of people know that this camera can shoot in 4K, 30 frames per second, and 24 frames per second. But when I started shooting on this, I was shooting in 30 frames per second, and I didn't know that it had a crop. So my first tip is if you want to use the full sensor on this camera in 4K, shoot in 24 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second, because it is going to be a small crop that you can see here. Now in 1080, you're using the full sensor in 24 and 30 frames per second, so you don't need to worry about that when shooting in 1080p. The second tip is for shooting in manual focus. And so this camera has great autofocus, but sometimes it just makes sense to shoot in manual focus. And a little trick you can do to nail that focus is by double tapping on the screen, hitting the center button, and that's gonna zoom you in to make sure that whatever you're shooting is perfectly in focus. On the camera right now, I have a 17 to 28 millimeter lens, but sometimes I need to punch in just a little bit more to get a tighter shot. And so this camera has something called clear image zoom. Clear image zoom basically just means that you can zoom in farther than the lens allows you to. And it does it digitally without losing any of the information. So if you're shooting in 4K and you use the clear image zoom, even though it's punching in, you're still gonna get a really clear 4K shot. If you're shooting with a prime lens or a zoom lens and you need to zoom in, it just makes the camera and lenses so much more versatile. To turn on clear image zoom, you wanna go to tab 2 and page 5. You'll see that you have some zoom settings here. So we're gonna go down, we're gonna select zoom setting, and here's some different options. And the one we want is clear image zoom. We're gonna select that so that it is on. Now what you want to do is set it to a custom button. On my camera, I have it set to the custom 2 button on top of the camera. So I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Back in tab 2, you're gonna go all the way over to the 8th page, and you're going to go to custom key, the very top one, and select that. Now it's showing you some of the custom buttons on the rear, but if we go over 2 more times, here we have the custom buttons on the top. Mine's set to custom 2. Again, you can set yours to whatever custom button makes sense for you, but this is just what I have. So you can select custom button 2 and change it to zoom. Now, when you are shooting, all you have to do is hit the C2 button and you're able to zoom in and get a tighter shot while still keeping that crispy 4K footage. So obviously we're gonna have the camera link in the description, but if you wanna know some of my favorite lenses that I've been using on this camera, those are gonna be in the description below and you can check out those links. When it comes to picture profiles, honestly, it can be really intimidating and you're not sure which one to use to get the best video footage. And so I recommend if you're just getting started and you just picked up this camera, definitely use the standard picture profile, because when you shoot, you're gonna get naturally beautiful images right into the camera. The good thing with the picture profiles on this camera is there's so many options with S-Log2, HLG, Cine 2, Cine 4, all those things you can get in this camera. So if you're a videographer and you're interested in using those, all those options are on this camera. One of the things that makes the autofocus on this camera so stinking good is the eye autofocus. So I'm gonna show you how to turn that on right now. You're gonna open up your menu, and on the first tab, page 6, we are going to see AF2, where we have some autofocus features here. And so the second one down, we have face eye autofocus set. If we select that, we want to turn this on. You can see mine's already turned on. For subject detection, you can leave this on human, or if you're shooting pictures or videos of animals, you have the option there. And then for right, left eye select, I have mine set to auto. I don't really care which eye it is when I'm shooting video. I just want to make sure it's capturing one of the eyes, and the camera does a great job with that. For the face and eye frame display, I like to leave mine on so that it shows on the camera display when it's tracking to the eye. Same with animal eye display, you can leave it on so that if you ever switch over to the animal eye autofocus, that you can also see if it's tracking the eye. You can actually use the eye autofocus while using a monitor. Now all the other cameras in this lineup, like the 6500 and the 6300, they don't allow you to do that. And so this is a super cool feature specific to the Sony A6600 that you can use that eye autofocus even when using a monitor. Now the preamps on the Sony cameras are a lot better than the Canon DSLR cameras, but still you want to keep the preamps as low as possible when setting your audio levels to get the best audio. If you want to know a lot more about this and how to actually set your audio levels, you can click on the card right here and check out a video dedicated to setting audio levels. Tip number 7 is to turn your shutter button into a movie record button. The movie record button on the back that just standard comes with the camera is so tiny, sometimes it's hard to hit and it's hard to find. And so turning this button on the front, which is a much bigger, better button that they use for photos, you can actually in the settings change this to start and stop recording. So if you click the menu button and you go to the second tab over and to the third page, here you're gonna have an option at the very bottom called Movie with Shutter. Once you select that, you can turn it on or off. I turn mine on, and then once that is turned on, you are set and you can start using your shutter button to record and stop your videos. The next tip is to actually enable the touchscreen so that you can touch wherever you want the camera to autofocus. So back into the menu, if we go to tab 2 and go over to page 9, we have function of touch operation. And if we click that, there's a few options here. There's touch focus and there's touch tracking. I like to use touch tracking because I can select a moving object and it's going to follow that object by tracking it and keep it in focus. But we're not done yet. Now you need to go to the 5th tab and page 2. And then at the very bottom, you have touch operation and you want to make sure this is turned on. To make sure this is going to work on your camera, your lens needs to be on autofocus continuous, not on manual focus. Now that it's all set up, you can touch the screen and it is going to track the object and keep it in focus. And this is perfect for when I'm filming Growth Video Live with Sean. And that is the conference that we host once a year. And I follow Sean around and I film him and I film a vlog, kind of documentary style. And it's perfect for that setting. And that's a video conference where we host once a year in Las Vegas. And there's typically tons of people around. They're all learning about how to grow their businesses online. And sometimes the camera doesn't know where to focus. And so by being able to touch Sean's face, it's going to track him and keep him in focus. It makes the videos way better. If you're interested in coming to Growth Video Live, I'm gonna be there and I can answer any of your camera questions and we can hang out and talk at the event. The link is gonna be in the description where you can learn all about it. I got a few more really cool tips and tricks for this camera coming up, but first, like and subscribe to Think Media and comment down below what is your favorite feature from the Sony A6600. Now, if you're like me and you've been outside and you've been trying to film with the LCD monitor and it's been really hard to see if stuff's in focus, if your framing is right, and it kind of sucks. But luckily this camera has a setting where you can boost the brightness on the monitor, and I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. So in the menu, if you go over to the 5th tab and page 1, we have monitor brightness at the very top. And if we select that, you can see that there's some options here for changing the brightness. And so if we go down, we can go to the right and hit +2. Now our monitor is brighter, but we can make it even brighter. So we're gonna go back up to where it says brightness setup manual. If you select that, you have an option here for sunny weather, and that is going to make your monitor as bright as possible on the camera. And it's gonna drain a little bit more battery, you know, as if your phone was at full brightness versus low brightness, but it's worth it for when you're filming outside and you need to see those shots. I would keep this on almost all the time because the battery is so good on this camera. The last trick for this camera is how to power it all day long by using one battery. And so if you only have one battery, you can actually pick up a power bank and use this to power this thing literally all day long. Now, rather than buying another Sony battery, this thing is actually cheaper and has a lot more juice inside of it. And so how you connect this to your camera is by plugging in a micro USB cable from the power bank to the camera. On the side here, the very top one is for charging. And so we're just gonna go ahead and plug that in. And if we wait a second, we're actually gonna see a little light right here turn on, and it's orange, and that means that it is charging. Now, when the camera is turned on, you're not gonna see that little orange light saying that it's charging, but on the LCD screen, you're gonna see that it's charging by that little symbol right there. I use this anytime I'm filming all day doing vlogs with Sean, or I'm shooting videos for this YouTube channel, and it really just takes the stress off the day because I know that this thing is gonna last me all day. I'll throw this in a back pocket or a little backpack, and I'm literally set. I don't have to worry about power. All these links are gonna be in the description below, so you can check those out, and I'll see you next time.